Today on Commander Replay, Atla Palani reminds you to remember the creatures you forgot about. Which creatures did you forget? Find out next on Commander Replay. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. And be sure to use the TCG affiliate player link as it helps support the channel and it doesn't cost you anything. Welcome back, everyone. We are playing some Atla Palani, big dumb creatures you forgot about. Let's take a look at this opening hand. 2 lands is not my favorite, plus 2 high drops. Enlightened Tutor could be for Scroll Rack. Oh, that's not, like, amazing. I think we can make it work with a Scroll Rack. Let's keep against all better judgment. 37 lands in the deck, so reasonable chance of drawing some more. I do like the Savage Ventmaw in our hand. That can get down reasonably quickly if we find some ramp, and then that'll give us mana to hardcast things if we need to. But yeah, the main idea of this deck is Atla Palani into a bunch of big overcosted creatures that no one really runs anymore. We got Autochthon Worm, we've got Living Hive, and we've got a whole bunch of fun, big Timmy-style creatures that just really don't show up anymore. And that's the whole point of this deck. We're going to try to cheat those into play. The Strionic Resonator is cool also, as we can make multiple eggs and get multiple things off of a single egg, so I do like that. Yep, looks like we're going last. That's no good. Again, it's the bunch of aggro decks. Not my favorite. We draw lands. Lands are good. Let's go Plains untapped since we're going to Enlighten Tutor the end step and try to get that Scroll Rack. So we can get the Scroll Rack and get the big things out of our hand, because we're definitely nowhere near hard casting those anytime soon. So the game's going to have to go pretty late for that. We do have a couple ways to cheat them in. We do have a Quicksilver Amulet in the deck. There was a Sneak Attack. I think I cut it right at the last second, though. We do have a Goreclaw to get some cost reduction on those big creatures, so that's good news. But yeah, the plan is we're only going to be hard casting those if the game goes really late. Stormscape familiar for the Kangee opponent, and let's take a look at what opponents are playing. First up, we have GVR piloting Saskia the Unyielding. This is a legendary creature tribal aggro deck, and we've seen it a few times. It can come out pretty hard. Luckily, they didn't get any crazy mana ramp in the first 2 turns here, so should slow them down a teeny bit. Give us a little bit of time to find some removal, get some ramp going, that sort of stuff. Opponent's got a Signet on the stack. We're going to play an Enlightened Tutor and get our Scroll Rack. It's going to bring it back to our turn. We draw the Scroll Rack. I'm going to go with the Strionic Resonator here because I don't want opponents to just be like, oh, he's got a Scroll Rack, shoot the Scroll Rack, because I really do want to get an activation with it before anything can happen to it. So just going to lay down the Strionic Resonator. If they want to shoot that, that's fine. So continuing on our opponents, next up we have Mockfire piloting Kangee Aerie Keeper. Kangee, a very solid bird tribal commander. I think it's much less common now that you see tribal decks built around these older tribal style commanders. I think a lot of them really kind of focus around the newer commanders because the new tribal commanders are pushed like crazy. Kangee does actually have the ability to scale pretty well because you can pump a bunch of mana into it as the game goes on, and it makes your birds huge, which is exactly what you want when you're playing a tribal deck. So, and there is a lot of value. There's actually some decent birds out there. I think it was a Gale of the 9 Winds or something like that. It's pretty solid. Opponent's going to lay down a Heuristic Study. That's a good one. And Saskia did get a Rhythm of the Wild. Everything's going to have haste for them. It's not amazing. It's not amazing. And then finally, we have Jenny162 piloting Skullbriar the Walking Grave, also probably going to be a little bit aggro. Haven't seen a Skullbriar deck in a long time, but it's something that can't kill you quickly if you leave it alone. Here comes the Skullbriar. Mockfire is saying that Kangee's kicker ability may be bugged. There's no way to adjust for X in the bottom left box when I try to cast for kicker. Ooh. I did run into some issues with that one time. I don't know if it was because I clicked incorrectly or what the case was. We'll have to be very vigilant about that as it comes up. Anyway, that'll bring it back to our turn. There's another land. Keep making those land drops. No red mana yet. Wouldn't mind finding some red somewhere along the way. Let's play the Temple Garden untapped. Play the Scroll Rack. Heuristic Study will trigger. They're going to draw a card. Activate the Scroll Rack. Going to put 3 back on top. It's going to be Savage Ventmaw, the Worm, and the Plains. Oh, wait. Nope, did that wrong. Almost did that wrong. The Living Hive. Sorry. Leave the Savage Ventmaw. I do like the Savage Ventmaw. We're not that far away from it. That gets us into a sack outlet and 2 lands, and importantly, a fetch land so we can shuffle. So, Worm on top, Living Hive on top, Plains at the very top in that order. No ramp in any there, sadly, but Put the plains on top. And we pass like that. So next turn we'll draw the land. Lands are good. And then we can play the Flooded Strand, crack those other ones away. And I do like that. Think about... Well, we can think about getting Atla in also. We can crack the Flooded Strand and then cast Atla. And then things should be in pretty good shape for us. Here comes Saskia. That'll trigger the Rhystic Study. If we can start making some eggs with Atla, that should keep the ground creatures away, because no one's going to want to deal with our big stuff as it comes in. Yep, Saskia takes +1/+1 counter and is coming in our way. Chooses Mockfire, who would be the Kangee opponent. So they're going to take a hit off of the Saskia as well. We're down to 34, and Kangee at 32. That's good. That should fire up a little bit of incentive for a Kangee to throw down a little bit of removal. Soulcatcher's Aerie. Whenever a bird is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, put a feather counter on it. Bird creatures get +1/+1 for each feather counter on it. It's pretty good. Makes a board wipe much less good. And here comes Skymark Rock. Whenever it attacks, you may return target creature defending player controls with toughness 2 or less to its owner's hand. Ooh, that's bad for our eggs. Fortunately, Atla out of range of that ability. Here comes a Rishkar Pima Renegade. Yeah, can see that being good in a Skullbriar deck. Gonna put some counters, 1 on Skullbriar, 1 on Rishkar. In comes the Skullbriar. Yep, this is gonna hurt. We're down to 30. It's turn 4. Taking some punishment, mounting threats on board. We draw that plains, play the Flooded Strand, crack the Flooded Strand, get a Plateau, cast Atla. Rhystic Study will trigger, opponent gets to draw. And next turn we can go Ashnod's Altar and create an egg. And then hope we get something big. There are 2 medium-sized creatures in the deck that we probably don't want to hit right now. Well, one's not terrible. One's Urabrask, which will make stuff come in tapped, which actually isn't awful. And the other one is Goreclaw, and that was just because it gives cost reduction and trample to the other big stuff in the deck, which if we have to start hard casting, Goreclaw allows you to do that much better than not having a Goreclaw. So, but other than that, we have this big pile of 8 drops right here, and hopefully we hit one of those, and that can do good things for us. At the very least, get some blocking going. Oop, here comes Arvad the Cursed. Death Touch, Lifelink, other legendary creatures get +2/+2. Goes for the +1 counter, doesn't go for the haste, surprisingly. Gonna send Saskia into the birds. Man, if I were Kangee, I would block. I'd probably just throw this thing under the bus right here. Oh no, sends it at Jenny. Excuse me. Sends it at the Skullbriar, and the damage gonna get into the Kangee. Ideally, we'll be able to untap with Atla before a board wipe comes down. Spot removal wouldn't be the worst thing either. It's Commander Isha. It's got flying and protection from creatures. Yeah, pretty cool little bird. Stormscape Familiar into the Saskia, and Skymark Rock into the Saskia. Here comes Swiftfoot Boots for the Skullbriar. Pays for the Rhystic Study. About time someone did. This deck is still pretty removal light. If I were going to refine this deck, that's probably the first thing that's coming in. Cut 1 or 2 big creatures and add way more artifact enchantment removal. Swiftfoot Boots on the Skullbriar. If we're going to win, it's probably going to have to be by being bigger than everyone else and just having a large number of really big things. Here comes Skullbriar for 5 more. I think that's going to put us at 9 Commander. Don't know that there's a ton of life gain in this deck either. I added 1 or 2 Selesnya cards. I didn't read them super closely when I put them in, so I'm not sure if there's life gain on them or not. Yeah, 9 Commander, down to 24. Life is bleeding. There's a Farseek, unfortunately a little bit late in this moment. So let's play a mountain, get the Ashnod's Altar in, and then we just leave up some mana to make an egg, and then we can sack the egg, get the mana, and we should be able to Strionic Resonator the Whenever It Dies ability. Ashnod's Altar coming in, Rhystic Study will trigger. Not paying, need that mana. So we'll pass the turn like that. One of the things with this deck that makes it fun is that, like, this is something you could theoretically build on your own. Obviously, Scroll Rack is prohibitively expensive, but other than that, everything else in the deck is reasonably priced. But, like, this is the type of thing where you can just go through your binder and just pick out old creatures that haven't been getting any love, don't really get played anywhere, and just jam them into a deck. So I think that is one really cool thing about Atla. Yeah, you can obviously build the most powerful version of the deck and like slam Eldrazi and Praetors and other nasty stuff, but it's fun to be able to have a way to play these creatures somewhat effectively that have kind of been forgotten to time, just because other better things have been printed. So I do really like that aspect of the deck. Here comes a Captain Sisay. Yeah, Sisay's good. Sisay can find Ruinous Blast, which is always something you got to watch out for. And if they give it haste right here, they'll be able to do that right off the bat. Urza's Ruinous Blast would actually be really, really bad for us. I think we have minimal legends also. Yep, gonna activate Sisay, gives it haste off of the Rhythm of the Wild. Goes for Grenzo. Okay, Grenzo much safer than Ruinous Blast. Well, Grenzo's actually pretty annoying, I'll be completely honest. Cast a Grenzo, not paying for the Rhystic Study. We gotta get rid of that Rhystic Study. That thing's drawn cards like crazy. See if opponent's interested in finding out what we have. Does not look like it. Everything into the birds. Here comes a generous gift on Saskia. Yeah, it's a good start to things. Commander Isha is going to block Grenzo. That's a good idea. Is it any creature? Any creature. Okay, yeah, so that doesn't stop the Grenzo ability. Actually, I think it makes more sense to block the Arvad right there because that would prevent all the damage on the lifelink. Opponent wouldn't gain that life back. Opponent will get a single Grenzo trigger, and they're going with the Exile the Top Card ability. Exiles Murder of Crows, a very solid bird. Surprisingly, not a lot of mana ramp happening in this game. Just people coming out fast with aggro decks. Surprising, I think the Signet is the only real thing that we've seen so far. We've got a Farseek in hand, but yeah, kind of interesting. Usually, oh, there's a Thran Dynamo. But, you know, usually by this point in the game, turn 6, usually someone's ramped at least more than what we've seen up to this point. So, can always appreciate a game that doesn't get out of control super quickly. Here comes a Light and Shadow for opponent. Yeah, can try and gain some life back right here. Seems like a pretty good idea. Or potentially even just hold up blockers. 3 life in the scheme of things. The ability to block multiple stuff coming in seems a little better. Light and Shadow onto the Stormscape Familiar. Gonna send Stormscape Familiar into the Saskia. They've got a nice little blood feud going on over there. I'm going to send the Skymark Rock into the Saskia as well. Light and Shadow will trigger. No creatures in graveyard for the bird opponent yet. So it'll just be 3 life. That's a problem that I've had with Light and Shadow, like in Aurelia over the years. You don't want to draw it early. Later in the game, it's much better. The ability to get your stuff back is pretty cool. But early in the game, that 3 life is eh. But on the other hand, with all these aggro decks running around in this game, that 3 life is a little bit more valuable than it normally would be otherwise, especially if you can get like some double strikes, some extra combats. The Birds deck probably isn't really all about that. They might have a True Conviction. I'd run a True Conviction. I'd probably run a Duelist Heritage also. I just like those cards, especially if I'm running Swords, although Duelist Heritage with Light and Shadow isn't going to work out so well because of the pro-white, but Blessings of Nature, you may cast this for its miracle cost. I have no idea what that card does. Distribute 4 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures. Okay, yeah, that seems good in a Skullbriar deck. 4 counters on Skullbriar, make it huge. Trample could be a problem. Evasion would be a massive problem. Skullbriar is a 10/10. See where the Skullbriar goes. Says you can't give it trample. That's good. Can eat a creature somewhere if they want. Sending it to the Saskia opponent. Whew. Gonna eat the elephant. Alright, we're going to the end step. Time to do our thing. Make an egg. Sacrifice the egg. Get some mana. Atla will trigger. Use a Strionic Resonator. Copy the Atla ability. That all worked out beautifully. Get 2 Atla triggers. Number 1, we get... Uh-oh. That's an Avatar of Slaughter. I don't think we wanted that one. I don't think we wanted that one. And an Ashen Fire Beast. Oh, we can wipe the board. Well, we can't kill the birds, but we can kill everything but the birds, and that seems... Oh, we don't have enough red mana. We're short on red mana. We can wipe things that are 1 toughness, which is like nothing. Okay. Okay. Ooh. There's a forest. Play a forest. It's gonna make it tough to hold up blockers. We will want to use Atla now, I think. Thinking just take a peek with the scroll rack. Ditch Savage Ventmaw, land. We'll keep the Farseek. No, didn't really need any of those. Play the Farseek. Rhystic Study will trigger. I guess we can pay for it. Let's get a Taiga. Guess we have to attack with these. Avatar of Slaughter. Yeah, probably one of the last things we really wanted to see. If opponent's got a board wipe, they're probably going to want to use it. Send them into Saskia. They've been a nuisance for everyone. This is going to hurt a little bit. What is it, 28 damage? Down to 5. If we can get just a little bit more red mana. I actually thought about trying to get the Savage Ventmaw at some point, because that would give us a bunch of red mana, and then we can wipe the board of all the non-flyers. The birds are still going to be a problem, though. Fortunately, they don't have, like, they don't have massive amounts of power yet, but Kangee just hanging out in the command zone. Also, the Soulcatcher's Aerie just hanging out as well, so... You know... Here comes a Ravos Soul Tender. Well, creature's gonna get bigger. That may have been a time to go Sisay Urza's Ruinous Blast. Actually, if they did that, then that wipes... Well, Skullbriar sticks, Commander Isha sticks... Yeah, it's still probably pretty good. Cleans out a lot of other stuff. Ooh, opponent didn't activate the Sisay, which means they won't be able to tutor with it. They will have to attack with it. Avatar of Slaughter. Oh, man. Everything my way. Cool. Do the egg thing. Get 2 more creatures. Use this Trionic Resonator. Off the mana from the Ashnod's Altar. Come on, big blockers. I don't know if there's anything in this deck that's good enough to have Indestructible. Got some, like, 13/13s. They could survive the double strike hit. Ooh, that's a Bloodfire Colossus. That can wipe the board. We don't have any red mana, sadly. And, well, there's a Savage Ventmaw. How much damage do I want to take? That's a cool 30, so we're going to have to block. Savage Ventmaw is valuable in that it is a flying blocker. Oh, man, I wish we had... Oh, if Phyrexian Arena was in play, we could sacrifice a creature for red mana and then do the Bloodfire thing. Oh, yeah. Bloodfire was one way to wipe the board right here, but we are forced to block. Avatar of Slaughter causing problems for us. Also, the Savage Ventmaw, one that makes mana. Eesh. We should kill Grenzo. Do we want opponent to get the lifelink? Everything's going to do so much damage, I don't even think the lifelink matters that much. Oh, Bloodfire can block something and survive, I think. So, that one's got Death Touch, so we don't want to block that one. Yeah, okay. Block Sisay, and then use Savage Ventmaw to block Grenzo. Grenzo will get a trigger. Oh, right, double strike. Yeah, okay. So, unfortunately, Grenzo did not die. I thought I kind of miscalculated that a bit, but... We've got the Bloodfire Colossus. Opponent's back up to 15. We're down to 14. Let's see where the birds are going. Opponent didn't cast Kangee first. That's good. Kangee with plus counters would be player eliminating and potentially kill multiple players. Commander Isha into the Skullbriar. Skymark into GVR. And where is Stormscape going? Stormscape also into Skullbriar. Opponent's going to use Ravos to block the Skymark Rock. Changes their mind. Really wants their Sisay back, apparently. Light and Shadow is going to trigger. Still no Creatures in Grave. Creatures in Grave would require board wipes. Oh, no! I could have sacrificed Avatar of Slaughter. Oh, I completely forgot about that. We could have gotten rid of it at some point. Oh, well, that's a thing to think about. If we should get the opportunity to do that again. May do that at some point, now that I'm thinking about it. Completely forgot that, you know, when you put Ashnod's Altar in the deck, you expect, okay, I sacrifice my eggs, I go get big things. Didn't think I would have to sacrifice my big things because they would be hugely problematic. Opponent exiled 2 cards. One was a Return to Dust. That would have been pretty good, actually. A couple enchantments worth shooting. Rhythm of the Wild, Rhystic Study, and Soulcatcher's Aerie, all very worth shooting. Sort of Light and Shadow as well. Bird opponent back up to 31. Here comes a Supreme Verdict. Do I have feelings about this? We can float some mana. I don't think it really matters. Yeah, that needed to happen. Although, Skullbriar onto an empty board, 9 counters, could just die. Soulcatcher's Aerie is going to get a bunch of counters on it. Thrumming Bird for opponent. Sword of Truth and Justice. Light and Shadow onto the Thrumming Bird. Has protection from Skullbriar. The problem now is that, like, recasting Atla to do the thing is actually really slow without haste. One would think I'm almost on just, like, Mossbridge Troll. But Atla getting us 2 at a time is pretty good, though. I think that's better than just, like, a single Mossbridge Troll. But Mossbridge Troll can block Skullbriar, and that's important. Yep, here comes Skullbriar. Rhystic Study will trigger. So this could be lethal on us. This could be lethal on Glenn also. Oh, actually, no. It's not quite lethal on us yet. Has to deal damage to the player to get the counter, so we'd be at 19 Commander. That's a Feast and Famine. Now it'd be lethal. They don't have the mana for Feast and Famine. What's it gonna be? They're coming our way. Alright, so this is gonna put us to 19 Commander and 4 life. Awesome. Just where I wanted to be. Yeah, boots are a big problem. Does this have haste naturally? It has haste naturally, doesn't it? Cool. Yeah, just jam haste on all the green-black cards. Why not? So Skullbriar. Oh, that's a Penance. Penance is actually very helpful. The next time a black or red source would deal damage this turn, prevent that damage. Yeah, it doesn't help us against this bird at all, but I think I'm going to activate Scroll Rack. Ooh, we have Hainware Battlements in play. We could theoretically haste something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not enough to haste Atla. So I'm going to play Penance. That'll trigger Rhystic Study. Activate Scroll Rack. Put both of these back. Nope, that's not at all what we wanted. Razi is kind of cool, though. Put on top. Put on top. Guess we pass like that. We're going to need a shuffle at some point, because we've got some things we do not want on top of our deck. Here comes Sigarda, Host of Herons. Yep. Goes for the +1 counter on Sigarda. Trying to leave back blockers. Nothing like massive amounts of aggro. Truth and Justice onto the Thrumming Bird. Let's see where the Thrumming Bird wants to go. Comes Bident to Thassa. Thrumming Bird into the Skullbriar. Yeah, Skullbriar looking a little bit scary. They've got an 11/11 with a Feast and Famine and some boots. Bident to Thassa, Sword of Truth and Justice, Sword of Light and Shadow, and Thrumming Bird will all trigger. Opponent can proliferate that Soul Catcher's Aerie. You can also put a counter on the Thrumming Bird. Thrumming Bird's going to be very large. Oh, hey. Penance. The next time a black or red source of your choice means it does not target, meaning it gets around Swiftfoot Boots. Cool. Ideally, we can find some card draw at some point. I've got an Elemental Bond in the deck. I've also got a Greater Good. Wouldn't mind finding those. Don't know how we're going to get the mana to get them into play. This deck probably needs more explosive mana type stuff. A Mana Geyser, probably be a pretty good idea. Don't have that. Some sort of Mana Doubler, probably a good idea also. So, counter on the Thrumming Bird, proliferates the Thrumming Bird, proliferates the Soul Catcher's Aerie, and then does it, and then proliferates again off the Thrumming Bird effect. It's a lot of proliferating. It's a 13/13 Thrumming Bird. You guys ever seen a 13/13 Thrumming Bird? I've never seen one. I suppose it could happen in an Atraxa deck, but Commander Isha, back to play. Oh, yep, Light and Shadow. Light and Shadow doing its stuff. Jungle Hollow for opponent, they gain a life. They also have a Rogue's Passage in play. That's a thing to think about. They appear to be one short of Rogue's Passage and Feast and Famine, though. So they're going to go unblockable. Nope, I misspoke. They have enough. How did I miscount that badly? Huh. Mana Rock? I don't know. Equip the Feast and Famine. We could prevent that damage, but I'd rather the bird player discarded. They've been drawing cards like crazy, and also they just need to take some damage. The rest of us are all at very low life totals, and they are not. So Skullbriar into the bird opponent. Gonna be a big old hit for 13. This should tickle. Skullbriar and Feast and Famine will trigger. Opponent goes to 15 commander, down to 20. Joining the rest of us at barely clinging to life. They have many more cards than everyone else, though. Rhystic Study putting in the work. Puts the boots on Skullbriar. Yep. Lands on tap. Opponent discarded an island. Rout would be an ideal card right here, but I don't think I put Rout in the deck. You have like a Magma Quake or a Starstorm, I think. Actually, you know what? We don't have enough mana to actually kill the stuff in play. Everything in play is huge. Phyrexian Arena is back. There's a Mosswort Troll after that. Scroll Rack again, I guess. It's going to be all three. Ooh, we're at 4 life. Ancient Tomb does not help. So let's go Altar, Living Inferno, Razia. And do we even play the Ancient Tomb? I don't know. We really need flyers. If we played the Ancient Tomb and go to 2, what happens? We have exactly... No, we still don't have haste. Ugh. Yeah, well, I guess we just play Atla then. Hope we survive. That's all we can do. Rhystic Study will trigger. Play the Ancient Tomb, I guess. Scourge of Courage is, it's not the worst thing I've seen. 6 damage each creature with flying. That can get its way, you know, if we activated it multiple times, which we don't... Well, we don't have the mana to do that. No. I guess the Scourge isn't really there yet for us either. Yeah, this deck probably needs Zendikar Resurgent. Zendikar Resurgent does a lot of things. Although, Zendikar Resurgent is a cast on the creatures. But still, we could just use mana. We could use card draw also. Here comes Saskia back to play. It'd be really bad if they chose us. We might have to penance if they do. I think the bird player is probably the target, though. They've been drawing cards. They've been drawing so many cards. We are wide open to this Sigarda. Chooses Mockfire. See where they send him. Sends Saskia into Skullbriar. Holds back the Sigarda. Saskia knocks Skullbriar down to 12 and Kangee down to 16. Here comes a Radiant Destiny for Kangee. Ooh, it's going to give everything Vigilance. Also +1/+1. So the way things are looking right now, Kangee has 7 cards in hand. Judge is familiar. Ooh, yep, that makes things more difficult. Kangee has 7 cards in hand. But assuming they don't have like removal or something. So Skullbriar would have lethal on Kangee, which means that Kangee doesn't currently have lethal on both Glenn and Jenny. They have easy lethal on us. I just don't know that we're the target. Saskia's trigger on Kangee means that they probably need to eliminate them because you don't want to give them the chance to untap. Skullbriar with the Rogue's Passage means you probably don't want to let them untap. All of which means that there's some chance... Uh-oh. No, now that we got lethal on 2 players. It does mean that there's some chance that we actually survive right here, based on their need to probably eliminate both other players. After that, it's going to be real tough. It's going to be, I don't know how we're getting through things after that. We know the top few cards of our library, and there's 2 creatures on top. One's a flyer, but Commander Isha's a real problem because it can't be blocked. We're going to need big plays out of our opponents. Hopefully, Glenn doesn't really have mana up. I guess he's got a little bit. But there's a lot of protection on each of those creatures. So opponents are going to need some kind of removal to stop what's going on right here. Otherwise, they are both about to go down. They move the swords around, and now they do have lethal on both players. Jenny says she's got a thing. Let's see what she's got. Swords on Saskia. That means Saskia... Oh, they could have swords their own... Wait, who's playing the swords? Is that Glenn's swords? Yeah, it can't be Skullbriar's, right? Rhystic Study will trigger. Ooh, nice. Opponent's going to Nature's Claim on the Soulcatcher's Aerie. Opponents may survive. That's also good. That means if we can get, like, Scourge of Courage going. I don't know that we'll have enough mana this turn to do it, but Scourge of Courage gives us, like, some out against something, maybe, someday. So, Soulcatcher's Aerie's down. Now both players are out of lethal range. Jenny still has lethal damage on the Kangee if she untaps. Rogue's Passage is a real problem for us. A Strip Mine would be helpful. Oh no, ooh, we still have Penance. We can survive Skullbriar. Okay, now the next thing is surviving Saskia. Oh, there's a chance. There's a chance. We might be able to make all this work. Thrumming Bird triggers, Light and Shadow triggers, Truth and Justice triggers, 2 Bite into Thassa triggers, all the card draw, all the value. Opponent looks like they have about 6 mana left. Opponent proliferates a bunch. Thrumming Bird back to a 9/9, and Judge is familiar as a 5/5. Pretty large, pretty large. I guess all the proliferate makes a lot of sense because Kangee cares about counters. That's cool. Kangee is a pretty cool commander, quite honestly. You're just like, oh, it's Bird Tribal. No, Bird Tribal's got some stuff. Can do some things. Ooh, that's a Dusk. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. Well, that's not us. Opponent plays a Walking Atlas. Well, that's interesting. I guess they're forced into that because that solves their Skullbriar problem right here. At least somewhat. Skullbriar's on 6, I think? Yeah, here it comes. Now, if we get Scourge of Courage and Razia into play, that's some pretty serious firepower. And I think everyone's in slow motion a little bit right here. Oh, that's a Reclamation Sage. I don't think any of our stuff is the target, hopefully. There are many powerful cards that are not our things. Reclamation Sage on Walking Atlas. Nice. Remove the blocker, go in for lethal. She's going in. Skullbriar in for 12. This would be easy commander lethal. Opponent's tapped out. They're going to need a free spell. Saying GG. Nice. Skullbriar will trigger. Oh, man. All right. We can Razia. Ooh, yeah, we can Razia and kill Jenny. Oh, what was the other creature on top of our library? I don't remember. We need 8 power to kill Glenn. Crap, I forgot what it was. Okay. Activate Scroll Rack because I want the Scourge and I want Razia. Scourge on top, Razia on top. The Troll can stay right there, I guess. Does it matter? I don't think it matters. So, Troll to the bottom. Oh, Living Inferno was the other one. Actually, Living Inferno has 8 power, which is exactly enough. Oh, I think we can do it. So, Scourge, then Razia. Play the... Maybe we're hanging on to that forest. We might be hanging on to that forest. Make an egg. Sacrifice the egg, get some mana. Use the mana Strionic Resonator, the Atla ability. Get 2 Atla triggers. Use Penance on Skullbriar. put the Living Inferno back on top. Oh, I'm so excited for this Living Inferno moment. Prevent the Skullbriar. There's Living Inferno. There's Razia. Haste on Living Inferno. Go to combat. Living Inferno at GVR. Razia at Jenny. Squeak this thing out. Is this gonna work? Opponents are tapped out. Hopefully there's no, like, slaughter packs or anything. Boom! Got them! Got them! Oh, it worked. I don't know how we survived that. We've been at 4 for so long. Oh, Scourge of Courage on top. What was coming next? Muskwort Bridge. Urabrask. Urabrask would have been hugely helpful at some point. Making opponents' stuff come in tapped and not with haste. Oh, what a silly game. What a silly game. Okay, so the first thing you should do with this deck is, like, cut some of these 8-drops and add more removal and card draw. It was lacking in both of those. Oh, I do have a Zendikar Resurgent in the deck. That would have been nice at some point. Rishkar's Expertise, Garrick. Could probably just use, like, a Harmonize also. Got Elemental Bond in the deck, just didn't see any of them. Atla's fun, especially when you put, like, silly creatures like these in the deck that you just don't get to see very much. Yeah. Probably need a Mana Geyser in this deck is one thing that I would add. What's coming out for Mana Geyser? Avatar of Slaughter almost got us killed. Praetor's Council? Yeah, because, like, with Praetor's Council, we can't really... Not really going to be casting a lot of this stuff. Get rid of Praetor's Council. So Mana Geyser is much more helpful. Try to hard cast some of that stuff. But yeah, this deck was fun. Just using some of these forgotten creatures that are just heinously expensive that you can never really cast. Lots of fun. The haste on Razia. Razia is pretty underrated. I get it. It's 8 mana. It's a lot of mana. But as a big flyer with haste and vigilance, it's actually pretty cool. I've been using it in the Angel deck a lot, and I find that it actually outperforms Redachroma much of the time because of the haste. So it's one that I've been liking. I haven't done a ton of work with the damage prevention ability, but it's still pretty cool. Occasionally you'll get something with it. A Living Hive is one that I was hoping to get to see at some point. We didn't get to see that one at all, though. But, you know, there's obviously a lot of things you can do with this deck if you wanted to power it up. Better creatures for starters. More guaranteed access to trample. A little more protection would actually be good. Maybe like a Legion's Initiative wouldn't be the worst thing I've ever seen. Some sort of protection. I've got a Teferi's protection in there, but we could probably use several more sources of it. Try to keep our stuff alive. Maybe a regenerate. What's that regenerate land? Probably get that thing in here. What's that thing called? Yavimaya Hollow, is that it? Yavimaya Hollow to regenerate creatures. Seems like it's going to be a good idea. Drop a forest right there. Definitely more removal. Could probably use another board wipe in here, but overall I had a good time in this game, slamming these big red creatures that are lots of fun. Didn't get to see the worm. I was hoping we'd see the worm at some point. You know what card may not be terrible for this deck is Gravity Well, especially if you know you're going against a bunch of flyers. If you put them all on the ground, then, you know, opponents have to try and attack through your big creatures, which could be fun. But you know what's surprising in this game, too? Opponent's stuff got really large. The birds were huge. Skullbriar was huge. Saskia, still kind of mid-power. Their stuff was still kind of on par with what we were doing. But the birds and Skullbriar just really, really large this game. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, yeah, let's wrap it up there. Had a good time with this. It was a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.